Hello, everybody. I'm Indy Lee, in case you're not familiar. Since you signed up through our website, most of you, I'm going to assume you know who I am. Founder of Indy Lee Skincare, and I am so excited that I am sitting here, well, virtually, with Fiona Campbell, who is the Senior Business Development Manager for Soil Association. So, Fiona, thank you so much for joining us in the UK so late. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm really excited about today's session. It's going to be really fun.
Yeah.
So I guess I can tell everyone a little bit about myself.
Wonderful. Yeah,
Um,
tell us about yourself. Tell us how you got involved with Soil Association. That'd be wonderful.
my name's Fiona. I'm the Senior Business Development Manager at the Soil Association. And I've actually been working in the beauty industry for over 10 years. So before the Soil Association, I had senior buyer roles at big high street retailers in the UK and also worked in product development. But at the beginning of last year, I was really taking much more of an active interest in sustainable beauty, like looking for more meaning in my everyday career and role. And my contract finished at the beginning of 2020 with the current company I was working for. And I think, like lots of people, the pandemic kind of totally changed priorities, totally changed the market that we were all working in. And it really allowed me an opportunity to refocus on what I wanted out of my career, what was really important to me, and sustainability and working for a company that had more meaning for me personally, more meaning in terms of the products and their ethics and their ethos. So actually this opportunity at the Soil Association has been amazing, and it's great working for a not-for-profit organisation and working in certified organic and natural market.
I mean, amazing. I think you're so right. As a result of this pandemic, everybody's focus has really shifted in terms of the overall wellness and what that means. And certainly, skincare is having that moment because that, to me at least, that's always been a part of my overall wellness regime. So amazing, incredible. So can you tell us a little bit about Soil Association as an organization?
Yeah, so the Soil Association is the leading certifier of organic food, drink and beauty products in the UK. So they certify over 70% of the market. It's the most recognised symbol in the UK market. And it's also the Soil Association certification is a not-for-profit organisation. So it's part of the Soil Association charity, which campaigns for more sustainable food, healthier food and farming and land practices. And the Soil Association has long been pioneering in beauty products. So we developed one of the first standards over 20 years ago and have been certifying beauty and wellbeing products for all of that time. And in 2005, we worked in collaboration with 4 other certifying bodies internationally to create the Cosmos standard. And this is now the most well-known and globally recognised standard in the market for health and beauty products, for organic and natural certification, and is massively growing. So last year it grew 40%, and now over 40,000 products are certified Cosmos, and that includes ingredients and raw materials. So it's that really exciting kind of mass peak stage.
Yeah, no, I know here in the US, it's really becoming more well recognized, and certainly during the pandemic. But I think over the past 2 years, you're really starting to see more and more brands look towards that. And more importantly, more consumers are looking towards it too, as that, that I look at it as the, the gold stamp of, hey, okay, look at what they're doing and what they stand for. So Cosmos, as you said, so I think a lot of people have that confusion. So I'm glad you brought it up is, well, what is EcoCert? What is Soil Association? What is Cosmos? But you really said like Cosmos is that umbrella. And you
Yeah.
said 4 organizations, just so everybody understands what those organizations, because I think that is sometimes where people get confused. So it's Soil Association, and what are the 3 others?
Yeah, so there's EcoCert, there's ICHEA, and there's BDH as well. So they certify within each of those European markets, but Soil Association and EcoCert also certify in the US market. But India, like your umbrella analogy, so Cosmos is the umbrella at the top. So that is the standard, and we've all worked together to create that standard, and work very collaboratively with the other certifying bodies. So I think, collaboration is such the key within sustainability, and sharing those kind of practices and knowledge.
How have you seen Soil Association really evolve as a result of becoming part of this global or creating this global umbrella?
So I think, we continually evolve, as does the beauty market, and, it's evolves as different different new ingredients come, as different trends from a consumer perspective evolve. But I guess what's really important is that the certification process and the standard still stays the same. It's the same transparent and credible process and standard. So when you look and you find the Cosmos logo on products, consumers can feel rest assured about what that really means, and that it's a trusted symbol, and those products have been rigorously checked throughout the kind of process. I call it the farm to face process.
Oh, good. I'm not the only one who uses that term.
Oh, I love that term.
Okay, great. Because that's exactly how I would explain it. And I think that's something that I would love for our listeners to really understand, because it's not just the final product, right? It really goes far beyond. It's really the entire supply chain. So I'd love for you to talk a little bit about that, on how that works, and explain. You don't have to go exactly from the seed, but if you want to, that's fine. I've got plenty of time. But really how that goes from farm to face. I'm so happy I've been using the right terminology.
That's okay. Me too. So in terms of the farm to face and the Cosmos process and the certification process, so it does go from checking the ingredients and checking, where those ingredients have come from a manufacturer and a supplier level. But it does go much further and deeper than the ingredients. So for example, our certification officers check the packaging and that they meet the Cosmos standards in terms of it's a maximum recycled content possible for the packaging, and there's not over packaging. Even the product labels are checked. So the product labels are checked to make sure that there's not any false claims. We go as far as checking the manufacturing processes, so that there's environmental processes to minimize the waste in production within those processes. And so it's a rigorous process. And I guess I don't have to tell you, Indy, that it's difficult to be certified, but I think that's really important, because when people see the symbol, they know that it's really credible and it's trusted. And there's even an annual inspection that every one of our brands has to carry out, and that we check that information. So it's not just an easy rubber stamp.
No. I know that. My team knows that. It's definitely a rigorous process to go through. And what I love is that it's not just us, right? So you're looking at, the ingredients, the manufacturing, the entire supply chain from start to finish, so that consumers can feel comfortable when they see that stamp, that it means something, and that there's a process. And what I love even more is that, as we said, it evolves. And then the brands that are part of this are basically signing up to evolve with you, so that as things change, the brands, the products will change, are saying, okay, we're going to change with you too. So we can continue to, improve and get better, as more information and technology comes onto the market. So I think it's incredible.
Yeah, and I think lots of things within sustainability aren't necessarily about perfection. It's about progress,
Mhm.
and the process and the stages towards that process. So that's one of the reasons as well. It's really important that we're continuously reviewing our standards and improving them, and progressing them.
Yeah. No, I think knowing what our brand, has really accomplished to get these certifications on the products, but also knowing for people who are tuned in, and also understanding really what this stands for. Like we're saying, it's also our third party vendor. So it's not just us. It really is going to everything within that supply chain has to be certified in order for a product to have that certification, which I think is another distinction. It's not the brand, it's the product, it's by product.
Yeah.
So I think that a lot of people just think that, oh, if you say you're Cosmos, everything is. No, it's not us. It's you're looking at every step of each product to certify.
Yeah, and we have two different levels of certification. So there's Cosmos Natural and there's Cosmos Organic. And in terms of, there's some common principles across both of those different types of certification. So organic products have to have a minimum percentage of organic ingredients, but across both natural and organic certifications, what's really important to us is that the ingredients are all sustainably sourced. So for example, palm oil, there's lots of conversations in the beauty industry about palm oil, or the palm oil that is in Cosmos certified products comes from RSPCA certified sources. All of the products are cruelty-free, they're not tested on animals, they don't use synthetic fragrances or colours, there's no GM included in the ingredients, and synthetic fertilisers and pesticides aren't used on the soil where the ingredients are farmed, which is really important because that means that it's better for biodiversity. One of my favourite biodiversity stats is that there's 50% more bees on an organic farm,
Yes.
which we've all had more time to.
I know Christine, who's watching this, is going, yes, because we have conversation about bees all the time. But I think Christine. I think that's so phenomenal to hear. I'd love to talk a little bit about the steps, but since we're already on the organic versus the natural, and I have my notes here, I want to make sure, why do you think that having the organic and the natural certifications are so important? I know that, you have the cruelty free, right? So we have that. We also have, which is obviously very important to me, which means that the ingredients, the products are not tested on it, but also going into, again, as you're talking about biodiversity, about the organic and the natural. What is the difference between those two? I think that's an important distinction for people to understand and why having it is important.
Yeah, so I guess the distinction between the two is like the organic ingredients are organically farmed, so it's a more regenerative type of farming, so there aren't the synthetic pesticides and fertilizers used, and there's lots of benefits of organic soil, so it holds more water. We've all seen the devastating effects of climate change across the globe, and there's also stats as well that organic soils in the long term hold 25% more carbon, and again, it's carbon's involved in so many conversations about climate change.
Yes.
So there's lots of benefits of organic ingredients on organic farming, but we also have the natural certification, because actually within beauty and cosmetics products, some of those ingredients aren't possible to be organically farmed. So for example, clay, like in face masks, we all love a clay face mask, can't actually be organically farmed because it's like a found ingredient. It's like mined, it's found from the sources. Water is an organic ingredient, it's found, it's not grown. So that's one of the reasons that it's really important to have those two distinctions within beauty, have the natural and have the organic certification.
Fantastic. Yeah, I think that's an important distinction for everybody to hear from you guys. From you, for me, I've always said it, and people are like, okay, but how does that play into a role when you come to Cosmos and Soil Association and getting certified? And I really agree with you, the importance of biodiversity and this how are we not just sustaining, right, keeping the status quo, but how are we adding to, because we've been really depleting and taking from. And that's another reason why, for me, having that Cosmos stamp of approval and Soil Association stamp of approval means something to me as a steward of the earth. So I love it. I know that there's some technical questions that I wanted to ask you. So, so get ready for them. They're not going to be that technical. I promise.
My sleeves are rolled up.
Yep. No, but how have you seen Cosmos grown over the few years? I mean, I think I'm seeing exponential growth, but truly, what are the stats in terms of the growth? Not just in the US and globally.
I mean, globally, it grew 40% last year, like total Cosmos. And within the UK, the market for certified organic and natural products grew by 13%, which I think is amazing considering so many of our retail stores were closed last year. And, salons and spa experiences have, so many massive parts of our sector have been shut down. So to see that growth, and its growth is well ahead of the non-organic and natural and non-certified beauty market, is really amazing. And yeah, so that's some really fab market stats.
That's amazing. I mean, that's incredible given what's going on. But to see that year over year, 40% from last year in Cosmos internationally. I mean, listen, the pandemic is not confined to here in the US or UK. To see that kind of growth is really incredible. what do you see the differences between Cosmos or, Soil Association? I'm just going to use Cosmos as the umbrella here, but Cosmos and other certifications like USDA. How do you explain the differences?
Yeah, so I think, USDA certification and regulations weren't specifically created for health and beauty products. So, there's lots of complexities involved in formulating of those products. So that's one of the advantages of Cosmos. And we also include water in our calculations. So it's more of a transparent way of calculating the full product, and actually water in beauty and actually lots of personal care categories is actually quite a large ingredient. So for example, in shower gel, it also impacts formulations and things like toothpaste. So it's actually more of I would say, transparent way of calculating the total percentage of a product, and a transparent kind of standard for the beauty industry. And it's created bespokely, the Cosmos standard for beauty, cosmetics, personal care products.
Yeah, I didn't, I'll admit, I didn't even realize how big Cosmos is and that it even incorporated going into the food industry. So it's silly me not thinking Soil Association, but I really had only seen it, at least here, as it relates to beauty. So it was so interesting when you started that you said that. I had no idea of those type of stats.
Yeah, so Cosmos does just relate to beauty, and Soil Association, it also certifies food. So
I think it's so interesting. Okay, why do you feel that certifications are so important in legitimizing brands, specifically in terms of the supply chain?
yeah, I think it's specifically really important in organic and natural because there's no like government regulated standards in that area. So, a brand can say that this face cream or this serum is organic or natural, and it can only contain 1% of the ingredients only could be organic or natural. So having certification in this area, I think, is really important for providing clarity for customers and consumers. We did some consumer research in December, and 1 in 5 consumers said that they didn't trust the claims on beauty products. And then, we asked what was their kind of view of when they saw a certification logo, and they said that just under half of those consumers said that actually those logos really helped them to be able to make more informed decisions about, and understand which products were the more sustainable beauty options for them to purchase into, because so many consumers now, I think, want to be making the right decisions, and want their brands to be doing more as well. But it is a really confusing and complex market out there in terms
I
of
mean, you can only imagine what it's like. I mean, obviously, I know, and a lot of people who are on this, who I can see the list of people here, understand the importance of what clean beauty and obviously are looking towards cleaner brands. But it's such a confusing market because, as you say, there's no regulation over the words natural, natural derived, clean. There's so much clean washing and greenwashing, and it's very confusing. It's really confusing, and it just continues to breed mistrust even within the clean beauty fraction, because you've got retailers who have all different types of what their clean standards are. And that was one of the biggest reasons why we said, okay, what is our stake going to be, and why creating the relationship and getting certified through Soil Association and Cosmos was so important. So our consumers and fans and loyalists understand our commitment to it and can really understand that it goes more than just what's in the jar. It's really the entire process from soup to nuts.
Yeah, and I think, it's being transparent about that entire process. And beauty customers are so savvy now, and they want that transparency.
Yeah.
And it's trying to navigate and find easy to understand ways that communicate those values and that transparency.
It's confusing. I mean, listen, I'm in the industry and I'm constantly asked these questions, and I am always amazed at how much as much as we're saying it, people just don't know what the difference between the various different certifications, which is why I'm so grateful that you were willing to do this with us. Okay, so I know the Soil Association puts out this organic beauty and well-being report every year. I know it's coming out later this month, right? Later
Yes.
in February. What are some of the biggest trends that you're seeing over the last year, like for you, which was
Yeah.
so surprising for you?
Yeah, I think actually one of the kind of the trends that we saw it's surprising as well because they're a continuation of trends that we've seen. But I think what's surprising is that COVID and the pandemic has just accelerated those trends and made them increasingly important. So the trends that we're seeing is that increasingly customers are buying products online, and that's a great tool to be used in terms of convenience, in terms of the delivery method, but actually how people are shopping those products, wanting more information, creating online communities. I guess we're an online community here that's doing that. This is an example of it. So that's become increasingly relevant and really key for the organic and natural market, because you can find out more information when you're purchasing products online and research those products, and ask your friends, what reviews of those products and how they're working, what those ingredients mean. So that kind of sharing, I think, has become really important. And I think as well, the trend that we've seen is that appreciation for nature and appreciation and understanding of the impact that our actions are having on the planet, and the wider sustainability conversations. I think we've seen that over the last year as well. These aren't just kind of decisions like impulse purchasing behaviors. I think this is deep set customer behavioral changes, that we're not going to go back to the way it was in 2019.
No, I agree with you completely. I think we're seeing this shift. And I think one of the things is that people are able to do the research before they buy, versus in the store, they're more susceptible. I'm one of those, to these impulse buys, or they see something and they might not do the due diligence. They're like, okay, this is what I think I need, and they're going to take it. Versus now, so many people, because we are inside, are really taking those extra steps to do the research on the brand, on the ingredient, what's going on in the marketplace, to make the best decision for them and their family. So I agree, but it's interesting to see now. And this was a global. Was it? It was a global report, or was it just based for UK, which is pretty much the same?
It touches it. So the consumer insights that we pulled together from the UK, but it does touch on some of the global trends and some of the global market stats as well. So and it's free to download. So
That's what I was going to ask.
Watch out for the launch. We're launching on the 16th of February. So watch out on the Soil Association Beauty Instagram channel. We'll be shouting about it when it launches. And it would be great to have as many people read the report as possible. It also really talks about kind of the principles of organic, and how organic and natural beauty is actually kinder for the planet, better for the environment. And we've got a great introduction as well that was written by Arizona Muse as well. So we've worked with some amazing partners to create the report as well.
I heard there might be something in there by Indy Lee too.
Yeah,
I've heard.
So
we have everybody. I mean, it's so funny. Everybody must just be listening intently, because normally I see the chat going, and all of a sudden, once you started speaking, Fiona, everybody just went quiet, because I mean, the information that you're providing, I know, is so helpful, because like we were saying, there's so much confusion in the marketplace. Okay, so one of the questions I got was from Sarah, and it says, if you are approved, how often do you get checked for continuity?
So the brands are annually inspected, and that inspection covers lots of aspects. So it checks through all of the kind of paperwork. We'll spot check product packaging against the paperwork that's been supplied for when we're checking through all of the raw materials and ingredients. So and any time a new product is added onto a license, so as Indy said, it's very much a kind of product by product basis. It's not this is your brand, this is your certification for your brand, and you can launch launch as many products to market. So each product is individually checked before it's awarded. It's added onto your certificate and then awarded certification.
And then even just all the marketing, I know, speaking from experience, even all the marketing that we put out goes through Soil Association for approval, to make sure that what we're saying is right. And I know that everything that our manufacturers are going through, they need to go through the same annual audit as well, and really have very stringent records kept in order to pass the audits for certification.
Yeah, and it does add time onto your lead time. It as we kind of talked about, it is it's a rigorous process. It's not an easy process to be certified, and that's important to us in terms of our compliance and, you know, our credibility, and that we are also a trusted certifier. So
Just received another question. Okay, would love to understand how long the certification process takes.
oh, that's like how long's a piece of string? Because I guess it depends on the complexity of your product. So if your product is using ingredients that have already been certified with that manufacturer, it can take less time. But if, you know, so for example, we've been in the UK working with a kind of toothpaste brand. So some of those formulations were more complex, so that took longer. So it can be like 12 weeks, it can be 3 weeks if you're adding on a new type of product, but, you know, sometimes it can take a year. So it does massively vary.
I mean, for us, because we were certifying, you know, obviously went through the whole process, that it definitely took, I think, probably a year just to get certified. Then the audits also, I mean, and yet another question. I love it. Outside of looking for seals, what other things should consumers look for when trying to cut through the clutter of greenwashing?
Well, I think, you know, you've got to love an Inky list, haven't you? Like, you know, looking at the ingredients on the packaging is, you know, is key. And that's not kind of a probably answer people want to hear, because that does take time, and also it takes like a level of understanding in terms of becoming more savvy about, you know, what are those ingredients.
And not every ingredient is the same. I've talked about this because, you know, for us, obviously having so many of our products, you know, going through the process, there's a level of trust because, again, as you're talking about, it is at the ingredient level that is being certified. So, you know, as I like to say, you know, plant grown in my backyard is not going to be necessarily as potent as something grown where it's indigenous to, like tea tree, not from my house. So I think it's also goes. So I think it's really getting to know the brand too and understanding what they stand for. Okay, another question is, what products do you certify for the most?
Oh, in terms, well, skincare is, I guess, like our biggest kind of category. And I think, you know, that's really, but there's some really interesting products as well, because I think, you know, skincare you're putting on your skin, and I know there's lots of discussions about the like, oh, I always get the name wrong, about, you know, how skincare products can seep through your skin, but actually, you know, we've got lots of certified organic products that are really amazing. Look, you know, you put inside your skin from inside your body from a personal care perspective. So, you know, like feminine hygiene products, female lubricants. So I actually think like lots of those brands are really interesting. We're also seeing kind of growth within some of the smaller categories. So fragrance, I think, is a really interesting area. You know, previously has been very clouded in secrecy about what goes into fragrances. So that's made them be quite further behind, I think, in terms of certification within organic and natural. But actually, you know, lots of consumers now are looking for products in the whole of their lifestyle that they want to be certified organic and natural. And fragrance is one of those. And I
I'm
also
thrilled. I'm
it's
thrilled. I think
interesting.
that's a massive area that that really needs this transparency because, as you said, it used to be able to be covered, and now people really want to understand what they're putting on their body.
Yeah,
So,
and I think, you know, you want an option for everything that is organic and natural.
mhm.
But equally, I think, you know, that takes time, and, you know, I think within consumers as well, you know, there's like, you know, there's still, you know, some products that maybe aren't your favorite organic and natural products. You know, maybe you've not found the best mascara that's certified, and that's okay as well, because it's, you know, like one small swap even still makes a difference.
I agree. I always say one product at a time. Okay. Also, some people would like to know, only if you're comfortable, the associated costs. Like, what are the general costs around certification? Is it on a product by product? Obviously, it's on a product by product. How does that work?
So actually, it isn't on a product by product basis when you certify with the Soil Association. So each certifying bureau has a slightly different kind of fee structure. And what I'm really excited about all these questions is it's like I feel like there's all these like businesses, like all these budding entrepreneurs that
Hmm.
want to start their own businesses up and, you know, want to come and certify, which is fantastic. Um, So there is like a set application fee, and then you can, and that's renewed yearly, and you can add as many products onto your license for that. So actually, at the Soil Association, we don't certify on a product by product basis, and once you hit a certain amount of kind of turnover of those certified products, it switches to a different kind of fee structure. So then a certain percentage of your sales would be the fee rather than one set fee. But let me know, I mean, like message what, like leave your contact details and I can send you over some more details in terms of the process and of how to apply, and we can send you over all the fee sheet details.
Amazing. When a brand wants to be certified, how does this affect their third-party partners and vendors? I know this answer, but you should, but I'll let you answer. Like, I got this.
Yeah, so as Indy said, yeah, so the manufacturer has to be certified as well, and ingredients, so like the organic and natural ingredients they purchase has to also come from certified manufacturers. We do have, like, we can share some of that information. So you know, one of the barriers and one of the challenges to certifiers, like, the questions are, well, how do I know which are the certified manufacturers that I can work with? And that information is also available on the Cosmos website and the Cosmos database. So please feel free to check out the Cosmos website. Lots of interesting stuff about standards, but also information you can find out about, like, who are the certified manufacturers, where you can source certified ingredients.
Yeah, I find that the website is so helpful. There's so much information for brands and consumers to get a better understanding of what Cosmos is.
Yeah, and if you're a consumer and you want to know, well, which is this brand certified Cosmos, you can find it out as well through those kind of websites.
Tara, only because I don't know it enough, can you type in the chat what the website is so anybody on here can copy that over? I don't. Okay, as I ask Fiona some more questions. Okay, why would a brand not get certified besides time and knowing that they wouldn't be able to? Thanks,
wow.
Tara.
I guess that's a tough question
Oh.
for me. But then I guess actually, well, I think it's interesting because I come from a commercial background. You know, I was developing own brand products for retailers, and I think sometimes it's, you know, it's like, it's time and like resource, like, and also like, not the beauty market is like driven by new, isn't it? Like constantly, like new products, and like quite often, like, I think that people don't have the time to take a step back and be like, to build in the extra time it takes to certify into your critical path deadlines, and to take a step back and think, well, actually, you know, how can we make a step change? How can we be really truly sustainable? How can we be measurable? How can we be transparent? So I think some of it is an element of a little bit of like just not having the resources. I think, you know, certification is really beneficial for customers, but actually we're interestingly seeing lots of interest from retailers because everyone has these massive sustainability targets that they want to meet, but how do you measure those targets? And actually certification is helping lots of those big brands, from, you know, like Amazon and their climate friendly pledge to like to more premium retailers. Like, we're having conversations with lots of those retailers as well, that certification can help retailers and brands as well as consumers understand things. So I probably answered that a bit woolly, like,
no, but I think it is the, I don't personally know why someone wouldn't want to get certified, but I think that the barrier might be the resources, and that's a function of time and money and manpower. You know.
Yeah.
Okay, so do manufacturers also have to pay the fees to get certified?
Yes.
I knew that. I knew that one too. I feel like I'm playing a game here. Yeah, I mean, I think that's the other part. Geraldine asked a great question. Is this really is a third party, and it goes straight from the vendors and straight to even, you know, the manufacturers of the ingredients, so the farmers. You know, we have to make sure that it is, as Fiona says, from farm to face. Every step of that is certified, which is one of the reasons why it is such a gold standard, I believe, in certifications.
And supply chains are complex, aren't they? When you are creating products, I guess, and if you did grow the ingredients in your garden, it would be slightly easier. But that's kind of it's not the reality of lots of beauty and cosmetics products.
No, nor do I have the room to do it. So, people are like, do you still do that? No, no, not at all. I love it. Well, I think we have all of our questions. Are there anyone else out there who wants to ask a question? Again, you can put it in the Q&A or obviously in the chat. And if you take a look at the chat, Tara was kind enough to go ahead and put both the Soil Association and Cosmos Standard website. So you guys can take a look and copy those over. And certainly, if you have any questions after this, you can obviously reach out to Fiona or reach out to us, and we'll put you in touch with Soil Association as well. All right. I think we went through everything. I'm just making sure if we don't have any other questions. I certainly don't want to keep you because I know it's already almost 10 o'clock, but this was amazing and so fantastic. And hopefully provided so much information. Yes, there is a recording. So much information to everybody who is on here, as you can tell by all the questions. And I'm really excited to be able to share pieces of this both on social and obviously on our website. You're welcome, Holly. No problem. Sometimes it's hard to watch both, but this was for me incredibly informative as well. And I cannot thank you enough for spending your evening with us. I
Oh
really
no, thank you for having
appreciate
me.
it.
And it's amazing. Thanks for all the questions. It's nice to get to speak to everyone and to have such an amazing reach, and to collaborate together.
Yeah, no, I'm so appreciative, and I know I speak for my entire team, who a lot of them are on here. We are so proud to have the Soil Association logo on our products, and looking forward to certifying you more. So thank you so much, Fiona. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. I'm so excited that we had so many people who were able to attend today. We will absolutely be, as I said, putting this on YouTube, and we'll share links on social channels as well. So if there's a part that you might have come in late for, you'll be able to see it on replay. Thank you. Thanks, everybody.